So today is going to be a little bit of a longer video, but I'm so excited because we're finally going to be talking about one of the most important, if not the most important, part of a news story, the lead. The lead is the opening paragraph of a news story. Before I continue about leads, I want to take a second to note that in journalism, paragraphs are not the normal 5-sentence paragraphs that we know in academic writing. A paragraph in journalism is more like 1 to 3 sentences long. Basically, every time you're making a new point, you're going to want to start a new paragraph. So a lead might actually be the first sentence of a story, but one sentence can be a paragraph in journalism. Okay, back to the lead. Let's talk about why the lead is so important. It's so important because it catches the reader's attention and piques their interest right off the bat. People are busy and they don't have a lot of time to sit around and read or watch or listen to the news. So you want to make sure that you get the most essential information of the story to them right in the beginning. If you don't have a strong lead, you most likely don't have a reader either. And we want people to want to read our stories. And the best way to do that is to hook them right away. We can do this with 2 types of leads, the summary lead and the descriptive or feature lead. So the first type, the summary lead. The summary lead gives the reader or listener the most essential parts of the story in a clear and concise way. Basically, a person should be able to read or hear your summary lead and know the main points of what's going on in the story. Again, people don't have a lot of time, so if your summary lead can give them the basics of your story without needing to read more, it's done its job. This lead usually gives the most important or most interesting of the 5 W's and an H of a story. Real quick, if you haven't watched that video yet about the 5 W's and the H, I highly suggest you do that before you continue on in this video. The summary lead is what we tend to use and see on a news website. So let's take a look at a couple of examples of summary leads. The European Parliament voted Tuesday to ratify the landmark Paris Climate Accord, paving the way for the international plan to curb greenhouse gas emissions to become binding as soon as the end of this week. So I know this sounds like a really complicated lead, but basically what it's saying is that the European Parliament signed something so that there could be change in the plan to curb greenhouse gas emissions. And it's telling us that this could happen by the end of the week. Let's look at our next example. The United States announced it is suspending efforts to revive a ceasefire in Syria, blaming Russia's support for a new round of airstrikes in the city of Aleppo. So again, I know it's a little bit complicated of a lead and something that we're not used to reading, but this is basically telling us that the U.S. was going to stop supporting and giving effort to a ceasefire in Syria because of something that Russia had done. To help you navigate how to write a strong summary lead, I'm going to navigate you through some do's and don'ts of lead writing. So our do's. Do keep your summary lead short. You want to try to keep it about 25 words or less. Do put the most interesting and relevant information at the beginning. And do focus on the most important of the 5 W's and an H. This is most likely going to be what information, who information, why information, and how. Most of the time, when and where don't really matter as much as those. Now for the don'ts. Don't begin the summary lead with phrases like there was, there will be, there is, or articles like a, and the. These are not going to grab your reader's attention. Don't overwhelm the reader. Not all facts should be placed in the lead. Less important information should go into the body of the story. Don't begin the summary lead with when or where information. Again, unless these are very unusual or important pieces of information to the story, when and where should not go at the start of the lead. Let's take a look at an example of a poor summary lead and correct it. So our example of a poor lead, or poorly written lead, is there will be a meeting of the Student Council Homecoming Committee next Tuesday after school. This lead starts with there will be, which is not interesting. Also, this lead is written in what we call passive voice. This is when the subject of the sentence is receiving an action. So if we look at the lead again, there will be a meeting of the Student Council Homecoming Committee is clunky and confusing. It might be hard to tell who is actually going to be meeting. We want to write in active voice. This is when the subject is giving an action. So in active voice, the sentence would be, Student Council's Homecoming Committee will meet. So let's take a look at our lead with those revisions. Student Council's Homecoming Committee will meet Tuesday after school. This is much better and much clearer. Okay, so now let's talk about our second type of lead, the descriptive or feature lead. In a descriptive or feature lead, we are really trying to pique the reader's interest and curiosity more than grab their attention. This lead may tell the reader a story or describe a situation in which they want to know more. We may not even get to what the article is really about until the second or third paragraph. However, you don't want to make the reader wait too long for the main point, or they will lose interest and move on. The descriptive or feature lead is what we tend to use and see in blog posts, magazines, or yearbooks. Here's a couple examples of descriptive or feature leads. On the second floor of an old Bavarian palace in Munich, Germany, there's a library with high ceilings, a distinctly bookish smell, and one of the world's most extensive collections of Latin texts. About 20 researchers from all over the world work in small offices around the room. Now, you can see this lead is different than our summary lead because it doesn't really tell us what's happening. We'll probably find out more in the next paragraph. Our next example of a descriptive or feature lead is, for many of us, September 11th, 2001 is one of those touchstone dates. We remember exactly where we were when we heard the planes hit the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. I was in Afghanistan. So I know most of you are too young to really remember what was happening on September 11th, or you might not have even been born yet. This lead is trying to appeal to people who do remember, who were alive and do remember that. This lead is striking because this person wasn't in the United States at the time of September 11th, 2001. To help you navigate how to write a strong descriptive or feature lead, I'm going to take you through some do's and don'ts. For our do's, do keep it short. It doesn't have to be as short as a summary lead, but don't be too long-winded. Do ask yourself if this is the best lead for your audience or platform. Remember, if it's a really newsy news story, a summary lead is probably the better lead option. Do be creative. Now for the don'ts. Don't wait too long to get to the main point of your news story. Try to get there by the third paragraph tops. Don't start with a question, unless it's a really compelling question. Question leads are frowned upon because they feel sort of lazy. Don't get too creative. Remember, your main job is to tell a news story. Let's take a look at a summary lead that we want to make into a descriptive or feature lead. West Valley High School students plan to protest returning to school in person for fear of not being able to maintain social distancing and contracting COVID-19. This is a solid summary lead. But let's say our story isn't a breaking news story that people need to know right away, and it's a little bit longer and more of a feature story. We want people to be able to imagine themselves as the students in their frustration. So let's take a look at this rewrite. It's Sunday night, and school starts tomorrow, but the students aren't sleeping. And it's not just the normal first day of school jitters keeping them awake. No, They are up making signs that say, "I want to live," and "School is supposed to keep me safe, not put me in danger." These students of West Valley High School are planning to protest their first day of school tomorrow because they want their concerns about safety and social distancing during the COVID-19 pandemic to be heard. You can see that I made it into 3 paragraphs instead of 1, and it might have taken a little bit longer to get to the point, but it gives the reader a little bit of perspective on where these students are coming from. No matter which lead you choose to write, it's best practice to make sure that you're writing in active voice. Remember, subject gives action, not takes action. And to make sure you get to the point before you lose your reader's interest. That's my quick snapshot of leads for you, and all I have for this video. So I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.